The Garden of Sinners, Chapter 6, Oblivion Recording. So this movie is basically centered around Azaka, which is Kokoto's younger sister, who apparently went off to live with her uncle or some shit. It doesn't super matter. And she ends up getting back up with Shiki, who she sees as a love rival for her brother's affection, because the two of them are investigating fairies that are apparently going to their school that are stealing people's memories, and they may have killed a girl. Now, let's just get right into it. Were the fairies involved in the actual girl's death? Not really, but they are a primary part of the actual case. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but what I mostly want to get to is let's talk about how much edgy teenage bullshit is in this. The answer is this one is actually significantly less edgy than the other films, but the important thing I want to say is I think it was last movie I said that upon realization of how edgy teenage bullshit this is, that at some point I hope they do drug use. I cheered out loud in this movie as we have a teacher that was just snorting coke and apparently got a girl hooked on drugs, and so she killed herself. Fuck yes, Garden of Sinners hit all of the boxes. Do I think they handled drug use very well? They barely addressed it. Unlike the other hotter, shitter takes that they do the other movies, the drug use is really just sprinkled in there, almost as if the fucking creator had checkboxes they needed to do and they didn't really have much to say about drug use. If anything, I'm a little disappointed that this movie wasn't more edgy. Regardless, I will say that at this point, they've made the primary gambit of all of the major edgy topics they could talk about. There's probably some other ones they could get to, like teenage pregnancy or abortion. I don't see them happening. I don't see this going anywhere further. I know the next one is apparently about cannibalism, so that's kind of fun. I guess I did miss a box that you could have done. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on at this point. And I will say that although it didn't really address drug use, I was actually kind of hoping fairies would be a metaphor for drug use, but they're not. This movie itself is actually more dedicated to the concept of memory and remembering things. A sort of underpinning point of this is that Azaka doesn't remember why she ended up falling in love with her brother. And of course, Shiki has some missing memories as well. So this sort of plays into the concept of the fairies stealing memories from other people and sort of the values of memories. This movie itself actually sort of reframes the Garden of Sinners to me as perhaps movies where they are discussing sort of trauma responses, whether that be like suicidal ideation or sort of lashing out at the world around you or choosing to forget. Now, whether this is true or not, I'm not actually sure. I think if it is true, if Garden of Sinners is attempting to address various responses to traumatic scenarios, I certainly don't think they're handled well, but it is possible that there might be some amount of depth to these movies that the author is at least trying to hint at, albeit very clunkily and with not great skill. Regardless, I remember watching this the first time and being bored out of my mind, but shockingly enough, I actually kind of enjoyed rewatching this one. It definitely has a bit of a lighter tone. It's very clearly speeds through large periods of times and days. If anything, this movie is a little too fast, and I would have liked it to take its time a little bit more. But I did enjoy seeing the Azaka Shiki roommates situations coming up. It's almost like a sort of like slice of life, more lighthearted vibes to it. And I do actually kind of appreciate Azaka as a character. She was sort of a badass in the ending fight scenes of this. I would say primary antagonists of this arc are like fucking boring as shit. But I will have to say that like what we get here of Shiki and Azaka in boarding school, sort of like fucking around and doing little investigations while sort of bickering with each other and stuff like that. I think it's actually kind of a nice, fun time. And it is sort of more of what I'm starting to appreciate in Garden of Sinners. The few thing I actually do appreciate is when Garden of Sinners actually takes the time to step out of its own asshole and sort of like takes lighthearted moments with the characters. And there's a lot more of that in this than there are in the other films. I know a lot of Garden of Sinners fans think of this as the filler movie, and that's because it is. But because I think the main content of Garden of Sinners at this point is fucking horseshit, I like that this is a filler movie. And so far, going into this, where I think, what do we have, like 3 movies left? This one's been my favorite one so far. Twitch and Discord in the description. I've been Sacrobolic, your envoy of hope. Bye-bye.